This is Nasha Kasha, Ukrainian Almanac. 28 minutes of stories for everyone about Ukrainian life. I'm your reporter Stefan Andrusiak. This is episode 295. Today I'm looking back at 6 years of Nasha Kasha episodes with an emphasis on music. If stories are the cloth, and music is the thread that runs through and around the garment, musicians and composers are the yarn. And that's what you'll hear for the next 28 minutes. Music, musicians, great yarns. It's the Nasha Kasha songbook.
If I could forget.
A young woman in Toronto expresses herself writing songs. She records 3 of them. But I know that there is a backstory to this young aspiring artist. Natalie Simutyuk is a descendant of Ukraine's most famous opera singer, Solomea Krushelnitska. It was this soprano who saved Giacomo Puccini's opera Madame Butterfly, which had flopped at its premiere performance in Milan in February of 1904. By May of that same year, Krushelnitska was singing the lead, to rave reviews. And Natalie? Oh, she too can sing.
What hurts the most was how easy it was to love you, and how hard it was on the road to the end.
Hi, this is Natalka Simutyuk, and this is my song, If I Could Forget. I wrote it with David Rancourt and Antoine Felix back in 2018. These days I'm in Toronto working on a documentary about a family member, Solomea Krushelnitska. She was born in Ukraine to pretty humble beginnings, but then rose to international superstardom. This year is going to be an important year, the 150th anniversary of her birth, and Ukraine is going to be celebrating that anniversary with a series of programming and events. I'm certainly hoping that this documentary can be part of the celebrations to honor her legacy both in Ukraine and abroad, certainly here in Canada.
His wife became a professor at Memorial University, so Brian Chedovic, his son and daughter, moved to Newfoundland.
People often ask me what the heck is a zababa. It's not the kind of party that I go to with my baba. The music's kinda loud and the dancer's kinda sweaty. I'll tell you all about it, have a listen if you're ready. Head ahead goose, big sip it's a baba. Lots and lots of booze, big sip it's a baba. There's girls with big shoes, makes a really good zababa. And a kick-ass band makes a great zababa.
Dr. Brian Chedovic calls his Kuba Sonics Newfoundland's finest Ukrainian band, also Newfoundland's only Ukrainian band. 3 Chedovics, 2 Newfoundlanders, play each other's music with a Ukrainian accent.
Babas in the country, they do it like they should. There's always lots to drink and there's tons of homemade food. The city folks, they try their best, but really tell me please, there must be better city food than those little cubes of cheese.
Ted Berg teaches opera at Western University. Son Dan, a percussionist. Sasha stars in musicals. Ted's wife is soprano Irena Verhash.
When they begin, it brings back a sound of music so tender. It brings back a night of tropical splendor.
A begin is a slow rumba that involves a great deal of swaying of the hips. From Cole Porter, 1935, the musical Jubilee. Not many artists can be called culture makers. I interviewed Alexis Kochan in Winnipeg last September, and I discovered an entrepreneur who breaks and encourages others to break unwritten rules, breaking through and remarkably creating this. It's called The Call, and it's from the Fragments remixed album. Julian Kitasti, Richard Moody, Alexis Kohan. It's all part of her Paris to Kyiv project. I got to know Kozak System in 2017 at the Montreal Ukrainian Festival. They are classically trained musicians. All are based in Lviv. Quote, "We are sons of our land," says singer Ivan Lenyo, but it is much more than a territory. It has the potential to be a world leader, even if today it's mired in troubles.
Смола і міцні сигарети, будь також міцніший, бодай засвітник. Свій час не вгадаєш, та не потопаєш, допоки ще кисень із мозку не зник. Пливи, загрібай, не грібай, заграбасти, не тримаєш воду, тримаєшся сам. Ні її, ні собі не дозволиш пропасти, на щастя вам Бог і на зло небесам. Греби свою пісню, живи нелегковісно, важке і до рук, ані до голови. Похміря й проблеми, будь завжди у темі і в темпі хорошому, просто живи. Живи. Полюбити так мило, лети і кохай, бо кохати святе. Тримай свою хвилю, греби свою милю. Життя все розставить на свої місця.
Живе і люби. The song says, hang on to that wave, live your song, love, for love is holy, and all will fall into place.
Thought it wouldn't last.
Luka Koplowski is the son of my childhood friend Vlodko and his wife Win, but the interview in February of 2018 was our first ever meeting. One reviewer wrote, quote, "Luka's music is painfully earnest, forcing his audience to feel every love and heartbreak," end quote. So it's no surprise that Luka was the featured artist in Nasha Kasha's Valentine's Day show that year.
Clarity is ice, water filling.
Just before COVID hit in March of 2020, I was able to travel to Alberta for 7 stories, among them Edmonton's Dnipro Choir. Then the St. Nicholas Mandolin Ensemble, with friends Larry and Anne-Marie Pschick and their friends. And I recall a delightful evening that I spent with the group Broken Banjos, who live-streamed their rehearsals. Why are there no banjos in the group Broken Banjos, you ask? They're broken. COVID would stop the singing and the playing for a while. Nasha Kasha was barely a year old when I went to Toronto to interview Binka and Ron Cahoot.
Composer, orchestrator, conductor, singer. I'll do your windows if the check doesn't bounce, cut your grass.
Запросили в хату, запросили сісти, поставили бараболю, нелуплену їсти. А я все дивлюся, де моя Маруся, я все дивлюся, де ж ти моя Маруся. А я все дивлюся, де моя Маруся, я все дивлюся, де ж ти моя Маруся.
Ron Cahoot, of course, is the accordion man and the mastermind behind the group Burya.
He laughs when I say that it's a God-given talent because he worked hard at it. But there had to have been a bit of God in there.
The band is playing very rarely now because you don't retire from the gig, but the gig retires you.
Як втікав я через тин, через перелазу, а дід мене ціпом аж 4 рази. А я все дивлюся, де моя Маруся, я все дивлюся, де ж ти моя Маруся. А я все дивлюся, де моя Маруся, я все дивлюся, де ж ти моя Маруся. А я все дивлюся, де моя Маруся, я все дивлюся, де ж ти моя Маруся. А я все дивлюся, де моя Маруся, я все дивлюся, де ж ти моя Маруся.
Ron Cahoot, Mr. Music for generations of Ukrainians.
There are some feelings that we all share.
Travel the world with a backpack and a ukulele. Record an original song at every stop along the way. His name is Ben, and Ben posted this song about the Ukrainian port Odessa when, in October of 2017, Nasha Kasha brought you the story behind the origin of the name Odessa, Ontario.
Down to the sea that we won't touch. We fly above them, all these worldly cares, and wide, dark steps of pure asphalt.
Find out about Odessa and about Ben's other stops around the globe at ukuleleroadtrips.com, and know the uke is not the national instrument of Ukraine. I interviewed Karysa Klopushchak at the Capital Ukrainian Arts Festival in Ottawa. She holds a PhD in music and is a violinist with the National Arts Centre Orchestra and with the Ironwood Quartet. It was a summer day in 2017, and Karysa generously attended an early morning taping of Nasha Kasha with her band Tutti Tam, which has its origins in Saskatoon. This is a signature piece of theirs, Tanets Hrigorovicha, Hrigorovich's Dance. This is Darka Dusty, aka Darka Konopada. She lives and she performs regularly in Portland. This is the song Haля Carries Water, Nese Haля Vodu.
Nese Haля Vodu, Koromys логнеться, за нею Іванко, як барвінок б'ється, за нею Іванко, як барвінок б'ється. Галю ж моя, Галю, дай води напиться, ти така хороша, дай хоч подивиться, ти така хороша, дай хоч подивиться.
Darka reached notoriety in the Ukrainian community as half of the singing group Darka and Slauko back in the mid-1980s. I made it as far as Seattle, Washington, but I was not able to meet with Darka in person. Later, she kindly did provide an audio file with some thoughts for one of our programs, as we all try to make sense of lockdowns in the midst of COVID. It was August 2017. We traveled to the Royal Conservatory of Music in Toronto. 9 emerging opera singers, their coaches and piano accompanists, all embarked on a one-of-a-kind series of master classes. It was the first Ukrainian art song Artists in Performance Summer Institute. And the man singing Shevchenko's words now led the way. His name, Pavlo Hunka. The Dnipro River rages, реве та стогне Дніп широкий.
Hello and Happy New Year from Mississauga, Ontario. This is Bill Hevershchuk speaking. The last 2 years with Zirka, just about everything's been cancelled. We did get together and recorded a new album called This Is Us. We are looking forward to performing again. We do have a wedding next month in February, so fingers crossed that will go through. And we have an upcoming gig in July. Musically, I'm sure there'll be a lot to look forward to.
Nad potoczką, Marysia Blakit. A ja хочу, tajny хочу, від тебе любить. Біла хмара, чорна хмара, не з тобою пара може і не мара. Дощик буде, сонце буде, що ж мені робить?
During the day, I'm a professor at George Brown College. Been delivering the classes remotely. It's been working fine, but certainly am looking forward to going back in person. Bye for now.
About a week ago, I was speaking with my kum Slavko Vorkevich, who once played with Sinistipiu, and it is Sinistipiu who are playing backup for Luba on her early hit Kaska, which means story.
Дівчина мрія, сонце проміння пряде чудову казку, чудова казка, дівоча ласка, чуття барвінкові привіт, та сонце кохання, як світлі погасне, кінець чекається оті.
Slavko says recording engineer John Curl made the band re-record their instrumentals over and over and over and over again. Finally, Luba steps up to the microphone, and she nails her vocal in one take. I knew right then and there, says Slavko, that Luba was a natural. The Milashenko family hails from Saskatchewan. Sang gospel for 60 years around the world. August 9th, 2019, Larissa and I were in Penticton, British Columbia. I opened the local newspaper and found that the Milashenkos were in town for the final Canadian stop on their farewell tour. So I got to tell their story. Rosa means dew, as in morning dew. The Rosa trio started off in Montreal as childhood friends. Third generation all, they attended the Sheptytsky Ukrainian School, Plast, Sum, and the Troyanda Dance Ensemble. Well, Rosa is all grown up now.
Мамко моя, не лай мені, мамко моя, не лай мені. Ей, погину я в чужім краю, погину я в чужім краю. Хто ж не буде брати яму? Хто ж не буде брати яму?
Nasha Kasha searches out the extraordinary in everyday life. Like the Shimsa School of Irish Music, it holds some of its classes at Hurley's Pub in Montreal. Jerry Gudzio plays guitar there, and he delights in being the only Ukrainian on an Irish sea. If this sounds a little bit unpolished, it's because I was recording it at a rehearsal of the storied Koshitz Choir. It was 2018 in the basement of the Ukrainian National Federation building on Main Street in Winnipeg. I felt privileged just to be there. Amor, tempo, Rushnachok, and this band, Veseli Chassi, each in their own time and their own way, drew crowds to a resort in the Catskill Mountains of New York State called Soyuzivka. And some of us, we fell in love. I can vouch for that. Larissa and I don't get there often enough, but on one trip I did return with a Nasha Kasha story about a much-loved manager and a head cook named Snake. It has been written that the Ukrainian bandura is more than a national musical instrument. It is the voice of Ukraine. The bandura combines the musical characteristics of both the lute and the harp. It produces a sound similar to a harpsichord, but with a wider range of tone. The modern bandura has between 20 and 65 strings. It's tuned like a piano rather than a guitar. The concert variety has levers that allow the musician to quickly change keys during a performance. This is performer and teacher Victor Michalo of Toronto. I also traveled to Whitby to interview Bill Wetzel. He's a tool and die maker who found he could build a better sounding, lighter bandura.
Well, when I worked for GM, I got interested in banduras. I was on the Arts Council at General Motors, and I decided I needed to build something from my past. So I built a bandura.
At first, community leaders wouldn't take Bill seriously. Said his name, Wetzel, didn't sound Ukrainian. Well, they know who he is now. In September of 1969, several alumni of St. Vladimir's College in Roblin, Manitoba, started an alumni choir. Later, it became husli. A husla is a zither-like instrument, but clearly the accompaniment you're hearing here is the bandura. You can hear the full story in our archives at nashakasha.libsyn.com. It's the episode called Winnipeg Choirs. Oksana Senki was born and raised north of the Arctic Circle. Her parents had each been sentenced to forced labor in Siberia. She learned to love the North and Ukrainian song, composes it, sings it. Sounds a bit like Patsy Cline, don't you think?
Осінній блюз за вікном, осінній блюз у душі. Скоро зима, а ми знову чекаємо літа. Осінній блюз за вікном, останній блюз у душі. Танець осінній і пісня кохання забута.
This rendition of Carol of the Bells is performed by General Amherst High School students, directed by Andrea Lescu in Amherstburg, Ontario. Our Nasha Kasha story featured academic Marco Robert Stech. He explained that the composition is actually called Szczadrik, and it was composed by Mykola Leontovich. It is one of my very favorite episodes of Nasha Kasha, and you can access it in our archives. Reggae lends itself to a world of influences, from the melodic rock steady of an Alton Ellis to the rock and folk influences of Bob Marley. Orissa grew up in Alberta singing Ukrainian.
Dad was singing in choir, and I was humming along with him at a young age. I did take some classical style choir, Ukrainian choir as well.
Then she attended a reggae festival in California, and she was hooked. Give a Little Time is one of her early compositions. More recently, she traveled to Ukraine to record.
Yeah, just to be there and have that tangibility of being in Ukraine and experiencing and living the culture and, breathing the air. And
her mother wanted to call her Orissa, but spelled it like Aura. Orissa herself tells people, think of no pressure when you call me Orissa. In Ukrainian, a rushnechok is an embroidered cloth. It's handed down through generations in a family. It reminds me of the dignity, courage, and the generosity of my forebearers. It was also the name 3 friends and I gave our band. 11 years, 5 records. Well, we of course each pursued our careers, but these guys, they're in my blood. And Andriy, the one singing lead in this song, which is called Flight of the Eagle, he flew from this earth far too soon. I hope you've enjoyed listening to some of the music that has been such a big part of Nasha Kasha. There is one composer, one performer, whose work I have played more than any other by a long shot. Evan Wish was born in Manitoba. He moved to California to study composition. In the first year of Kasha, I interviewed Evan about his road in life. You're listening to him now. Evan gave me permission to use his works whenever I needed to. An interlude in a story, for station IDs, and so often at the end of the program, just as I'm doing now. Evan Wish, thank you. Nasha Kasha is also a podcast. There's an easy way to access it for free. Go to nashakasha.libsyn.com. Nasha Kasha is one word. Libsyn is spelled LIBSYN.com. nashakasha.libsyn.com. Partial funding for Nasha Kasha comes from the Taras Shevchenko Foundation and the Ukrainian Credit Union. I'm your reporter Stefan Andrusiak. Back in a week, God willing. До милої зустрічі. За тиждень часу, дорогі слухачі.